are you doing?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah, ma'am. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good too. Thank you. So let's continue. It's our fifth lecture for managing innovation and change in computing. In this subject, we were talking about the changes in the organizations that the organizations which basically made to increase the productivity and efficiency of their business working. Today, we will discuss the two components of understand how to manage change. Basically, here we were dealing about the changes, like when you have made some changes to the organization, how you will manage them. So first we will explain how to measure the impact of change, and secondly we will see our merit task, which is to analyze the importance of ensuring stakeholders buy-in to proposed changing changes that it's related to basically the changes that are made. We will see the importance of ensuring all the stakeholders buy in. It means that we will see the needs of all the stakeholders, and ultimately we will see either we have made the changes as per the needs and what are the impacts of on the stakeholders, and also we will see the components that are working in the in this context to make ensure that the needs and the requirements of all the stakeholders are done perfectly. So let's start with the impacts of changes. To measure the impacts of change management on your project outcome, you need to track your change progress. First thing is definitely whenever you have made some changes and you want to see the impacts of the changes and also you want to measure them, you definitely need to track the progress of the changes. After making the changes, the implementation of the changes, what you will do, you will track the performance. And as we talk about the KPIs, basically these are used to measure the performance of the activity that we have performed. So we will see all the changes that have been made and we will track them, and ultimately we will be able to manage the impacts of the changes. For the measurement of the impacts of changes, you can use quantitative and qualitative metrics to assess how well you are meeting change objectives. Basically, the qualitative and quantitative metrics of assessment are the ones that will check the impact on different scales, and either it will check on the quantity, like the let's suppose if we are talking about the manufacturing form and we have made some changes to the manufacturing criteria, we will see how it is impacting the number of products that are being produced and what are the number of sales generated by making some change to the technology or the overall business. And if we talk about the qualitative, we will see the performance of the employees, how well they are performing and how they are making the changes to the system. If they are, if we have made some changes to the technology, or then we will see the performance of employees on the use of that technology, like how well they are using that technology and how they are behaving with that technology. So we will measure all these components by all the metrics that are given to us with the either they are quantitative or qualitative. We will check on all the metrics, and also we will it will help us to understand either we are meeting the change objectives, like the objectives are the ones that are basically the exact need of the change, like why we have made these changes and how much your change audience is adapting to the change, like if the audience is enjoying the changes, or either they are enjoying or they are getting disturbed with that change that you have made to the either it's to the strategy or to the business activities or any other thing. You need to check the behavior or the response of the audience so that you can understand the impacts of changes, and also how your change agents are performing. Like the change agents are the ones, you can call them stakeholders as well, but these are the ones who are basically using the technology or the firm or the production after making the changes. So these agents are the ones who are going to perform the activities on that particular thing on which you have made the changes, and you will see the performance of them so that you can understand how well they are performing and how they can impact the overall business productivity and efficiency. Whenever we talk about the change management or the tracking of the changes, or the track the if we want to track the impact of the change, most of the change practitioners who are working on this field are extremely comfortable with saying that change management is about the attitudes, the behaviors, the feelings, and therefore we cannot measure them. Most of the people say that this is the unpredictable thing. We cannot predict the impacts of change, and somehow these are the things that are so, basically, most of the change practitioners who are already doing this, they generally says that this is not uh, a term that we can work on. After all, a lot of change practitioners are more interested in people than numbers. This metaphor can that change management is soft extend into areas such as leadership and employee engagement, whereby it may not be easy to measure and track things. Definitely, it's a tricky thing when you want to see the behavior of people and you want to make it just like you want to make a proper record from the performance of the people, how well they are performing and how they are dealing with the things. Then definitely you need to track the behavior of the employees and all the peoples, or you can say that the stakeholders who are connected with the term. And definitely it's a tricky thing. However, is it really that because something is harder to measure and less black and white, then there is less merit in measuring these. So here is a quote by the Peter Drucker, who says that if you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. And I must say this is the most relevant quote, because if you are not going to track the performance of something, or even if we are talking about the change or any other activity, we cannot make it work in a better way. If we are working in us at a normal pace, we will always be on that pace. We will not be able to expand to a higher range or the pace that we are already working. So if we want to improve, we need to measure it how well we are dealing with the things. There are some common ways in which change is often measured in projects. Let's see them one by one. The first is the change readiness survey, in which we do some surveys and we basically check the readiness of the change that we have implemented. These surveys usually are basically performed online and sent by a project owner to understand how stakeholders groups are feeling about the change at different points in time throughout the project. So this is basically to get the ideas from the stakeholders, like how well they are enjoying the product or the service, whatever you have made the changes in. It can be in the form on a Likert scale or a free text. It depends upon the options that you are going to give them, like on which they can perform the survey. Most results are summarized into a quantitative scale of the degree in which the group is ready for change. A simple survey monkey could be set up to measure stakeholders' readiness for change tracking. Basically, it's a comprehensive online tool that measures the change journey and readiness of stakeholders group throughout their initiative. So once you have initiated a process or the project in these kind of online tools, it will help you to track the readiness of the changes, and you will be able to see the impacts of the change with the help of these surveys. The second thing is training evaluation surveys. These evaluations are normally based on participants' satisfaction across various categories such as content, instructor effectiveness, usefulness, etc. So there are different kind of factors that you can check in order to see the satisfaction level of the employees or the people who are working on the functionality. In a face-to-face training format, these surveys are normally paper-based so as to increase the completion rate. For online or virtual training, rating may be completed by the user at the conclusion or after the session. So it depends upon the user and the responses from the user that we will get. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any question till now?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move to the next one. It's a communication matrix. One way in which communications may be measured is the hit rate, or the number of users or audience that views the article, material, or page. It depends upon the changes that you have made. If we are talking about some of the technologies that we have changed, we will see how the employees are talking about it, how much they are going to rate the changes in the technology, in the format, in the business activities and all the stuff. We will see the communication metrics with the help of different online tools. We can use them. This may be easily tracked using the Google Analytics that not only track number of views per page. Basically, this thing that here we have in front of the slide is related to something that is basically content based. If we have made some changes to the content, it will help you to, let's suppose you have made some changes to your website or application or the mobile application, and you want to track the responses. So how you can get the this number done? You will easily be able to see the number of views on your website, or the number of people who are making the orders or placing some of the orders or buying the products from your page or website. So this is the number that will help you to understand the metrics of how well the changes are working for your business. Employee sentiments and culture survey. There are some organizations that measure employee sentiments or culture over the year, and often there are questions that are linked to change. So, if you have made the changes and it is related to the employees, definitely some of the changes are related to the, you can say that you need to hire some new employees after making the changes, because the previous workers are not able to meet the requirements of that particular technology or change, so you need to move to some other people. So it's related to the employee sentiments. And also it depends upon the culture of the environment organization. Let's suppose it's your organizational policy that the people who are working will be getting the training to proceed with the organizational strategy. So it's related to the culture. You need to do the survey for that culture, like how the employees are dealing with it and what are the feelings of them at the time when you are going to make the changes. Definitely, when an organization is going to make the changes, it's a positive approach if they communicate the change and all the possible impacts of that change with the employees before making the changes. These surveys tend to be short and based on a Likert scale and with less open-ended questions for qualitative feedback, because it generally depends upon the person who is going to basically design the survey. He or she definitely will be giving some options to select, and the employees will be choosing from that scale so that they can easily rate the services or the overall experience whatever they are having with the environment of the organization. Since these surveys are often sent across the entire organization, they are catch all, yardstick, and may not be specific to particular initiatives, because it will be, it definitely, if we are doing the cultural survey of the organization, it will be for all the employees who are working there. And if you have made changes to a specific or a particular department, then you will definitely be needed to, the survey responses from that field only. But if you are doing the cultural survey, it is for whole organization. And definitely sometimes we made some changes that need the responses from the whole organization and all the employees of the organization, so that you can understand that the changes that you have made are either in favor of the employment of your employees or not. So definitely it's needed sometimes when you have made the changes. Then the next one is the change heat map. Some organizations devise change heat maps on Excel spreadsheets to try and map out the extent to which different business units are impacted by change. This artifact speaks to the amount of change and often leads to discussion concerning the capacity that the business has to handle or digest change. The problem with most heat maps is that they are usually categorized and rated by the creator of the artifact or a limited number of people making judgments, and therefore subject to bias. Data that is based on one person's opinion also tend not to have as much weight in a decision making form. Then here we have some change benefit tracking. Basically, the metrics that we have discussed previously were the things that are basically used to do the analysis of, or you can say that to track the working of the system or the changes that you have made. Now we will see the change benefit tracking, what it is and what are the impacts that it is making. In addition to typical change management measures, there are various initiatives, specific measures that focus on the actual outcome and benefit of the change with the goal of determining to what extent the change has taken place. So some of the examples of this one includes system usage rates, cost reduction, revenue increase, transaction speed, process efficiency, speed of decision making, customer satisfaction rate, employee productivity rate, incidence of process violation. So all these examples are the one that are making the things better for the organization. If you are going to make the changes, you have made some initiative, taken some initiative to make the changes that are basically specific to the measurements of the outcomes that you are expecting. So these could be the expectations, and these are the things that you can expect from your organization whenever you will make some changes. And these are the expected benefits that you will get after making the changes to the organization. So the next question for today's task is analyze the importance of ensuring stakeholders buy-in to proposed changes. Attaining stakeholder buy-in is one of the most important steps in the communication process when managing a project. Basically, this is something that is related to the communication process. Whenever you are going to get the requirements from the stakeholders, when you are going to get the feedback from the stakeholders buy-in is really needed because it will help you to understand what are the things that you need to improve and what are the things that are okay to go with. Also, whenever we are talking about the requirements, again, it's the most important thing because you need to understand what should be the part of the system, either it's related to the change or not. But the buy-in from all the stakeholders is a must. It's one of the most important steps in the communication process when managing a project. It ensures that the project team has the passion to do the project, that the executive team will support your efforts, and that external stakeholders will understand and accept the project. So, what actually a stakeholder buy in is, in order for a project to be successful, it's important to have buy in from all stakeholders. This means that everyone involved in the project's success should be on board with the company's goals and objectives. Without buy-in from all stakeholders, it will be difficult to achieve company's objective. So if you want to meet the objectives of the organization, you definitely need to have the access to all the to the feedback or the views or the opinions of all the stakeholders. It's a must so that you can easily communicate your thoughts and they will be able to respond to it. So the challenges that basically are the part of the organizations when they are not having the stakeholder buy-ins and what are the things that they need to manage basically. The two biggest challenges that leaders have in getting their people on board with a company's vision, mission, and values are leaders must ensure that the company's vision for a compelling and inspiring future is shared by all employees and it's not just their vision, and many leaders are good at coming up with rational reasons for employees to buy in to a compelling and inspiring future, but most are far less able to gain the emotional buy-in that is far more powerful in energizing, inspiring, and focusing employees. So how to get the stakeholders buy-in? First thing is clearly communicate. When you want to get the buy-in from the stakeholders, what you need to do is you need to communicate very well. Of course, communication is a key. Assess the best ways to involve your stakeholders in organizational change. So what you need to ask them for is should you communicate face to face, one on one, in group, by email, or through online chat platforms? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself first because you need to understand how well you are going to prepare for the communication, how well you will be communicating with them. The more you communicate with the stakeholders, the more you will get the buy-ins from them. Who is the best communicator for the intended audience? Let's suppose the stakeholders are from the higher management and the person who is going to communicate with them should must have good communication skills. So you need to decide which one will be communicating with them Either it's a senior executive, a fellow employee, HR manager, or a direct supervisor. It depends upon the skills of good communication skills of the employee. Also, you will see when will you communicate, what days and times work best for everyone. For instance, calling an impromptu meeting at the end of the day on Friday might not facilitate the most engagement from your key stakeholders because you need to focus on the time when the people are highly engaged in the working. If it's going towards the weekend, mostly people are interested in the thoughts of the weekend and they are not really interested in the work. So you need to choose a perfect time for the communication so that you can get better responses from all the stakeholders. All these considerations demonstrate why using initial surveys or interviews at the beginning of your change initiative is helpful for your cause. Showing respect for your stakeholders' needs, wants, and opinions will go a long way towards keeping them engaged throughout. In your communications, make sure you create awareness of the change, its benefits, and the risks of not changing, as well as future training needs and the way they can ask questions. So, you need to make sure that the communication that you are going to conduct here, it should be complete and it should give them a completeness thought, like it should be giving them all the things that they may think to ask you. So everything should be the part of it. Also, you need to facilitate them for asking the questions. If they are having questions, they can conveniently ask you. Then the next thing that you need to focus on is the delegate. In addition, beyond simply asking stakeholders for their opinions and expertise, you can employ them as change agents. And the change agents are the ones who are going to track the responses of the change. It may help to create stakeholders group and appoint champions of your cause for each. Make them facilitator of your new initiative and give them an even bigger stake in its successful outcome. It will intrigue them to be the part of the communication and overall process, and ultimately it will be a good thing for you because you will be getting some of the good options from them and you will be able to manage them or communicate with them in a better way if they will be communicating with you for whole time as a part of the process. Then the next step is to celebrate. Change can be difficult. Some changes are really easy to make and implement, and some changes are really difficult. And after implementation, it's very difficult to maintain them. And also, the training is a crucial step for some of the changes. So you need to make sure you recognize individual or group efforts and set milestones that can be celebrated by everyone. Stakeholders want to be appreciated for their hard work, whether it's a simple thank you email, an award ceremony, or an office party. Make sure no good efforts is overlooked. So you need to make sure that you are celebrating a very, even if it's a very little milestone, you need to celebrate for them. Either it's a very simple way to celebrate or a grand party. It depends upon the definitely on the changes that are basically made, and also you can be easily able to understand what you need to do with the system if you are having a good team with you. Definitely you want to appreciate them if you are having good responses from the stakeholders. Next, we will see how who are your stakeholders of change. So, how do you identify your stakeholder? The short answer is anyone affected by the change initiative. All the people, basically, it could be anyone who is basically going to be affected by the change. But it's important to take a closer, more analytical look because your stakeholders will influence your outcome as well as the entire change journey. First and foremost, your stakeholders are the individuals or groups who will be the ultimate end users as well as your executive management. They are closely followed by your project team, partners, funding, or budget oversight, as well as any regulatory agencies. Also, it includes the end users and executives are basically the critical for successful organizational change because their input, influence, engagement, and acceptance will drive the metrics of your project. If the end users or the executives are not satisfied with the changes, then definitely it will be having negative impacts on the project. Therefore, they should be involved from beginning to end. So you need to add them from the very starting level so that they can easily understand what the things that are you are going to make changes in. When you analyze your stakeholders, determine the level of impact for each identified group. What might they gain? What might they lose? Determine their level of influence. So you can either leverage it for good or plan how you will overcome any objection. So whenever you are going to choose the change holders, you need to make sure that all the people that you have selected are the really important component of your change management. This is all from my side. Where we have two questions in front of the screen. You can answer one of your choice, and also if you have any question, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you. How do you manage stakeholders' opinion in your project? This is by either having one-to-one or face-to-face meeting, or a group meeting, or via email, or through what you call it, like chat groups. So we can take their opinions, and then we can also share, some of the we can engage them as well in the project for a few parts of it. When I'm sorry, I forgot the words mentioned in the slides.
It's okay. Basically, what I am asking you is actually I was literally interested in getting the answer of question two from your side. But what I want to ask you is whenever you do your projects like related to networking projects, if you want to make some changes, so how do you manage the opinion from all the stakeholders who are the part of your project? If you want to
Uh,
make a change, how you will manage it?
Actually, ma'am, first of all, whenever for example, if there is a new project, like we call it a greenfield project, or some project which is like in a middle of the project status, you can say. So we conduct a kickoff meeting. This is the best way to start any project, whether it is from the scratch, which is a greenfield project, or a brownfield project, which is like a migration or something. So having the kickoff meeting is to understand what those stakeholders and the customers need. Then we take their opinions, and also then we run kind of a risk assessment on it, and we see like what kind of quantity or quality. I'm sorry, like bills of quality material is required to implement that project. So this is getting the stakeholders opinion in the project is crucial, because sometimes even the customer or the stakeholders are not really well informed of what they want. Sometimes they have just heard it from some word of mouth, so they don't understand their scope as well. Even the stakeholders, they don't understand their scope. So once we have a kickoff meeting, we get all the opinions from everybody. We get the requirements, and then we analyze it. And after analyzing it, we try to bring every stakeholder on the same page, and then we have like kind of agreement. After those meetings, we have like minutes of meetings shared in the email, along with the scope of the project, and you can say like what is included in the project and what is not in the project. So the stakeholders opinion regarding those scope is taken into consideration first. Then we see whether it is like doable or not doable, whether we should go, or up to which extent we can facilitate them.
Okay,
That's my answer.
well explained. And let's suppose when it's just another question, but for the better understanding of the thing, like how to deal with the stakeholders. Let's suppose some or one of the stakeholders is not like is not agreed on the terms that the all the other people are agreed upon. So what is the criteria for that person? Like um we need to first we need to satisfy that person, or we can move without his satisfaction level, or you can say that without his agreement or any other thing we can
Ma'am,
proceed
it
further or
depends.
not.
It depends what kind of stakeholder he is, whether he is like a business owner, whether he is like a subcontractor, or he's like a part of the team itself, which in our team or any other implementation team. So if a stakeholder is not coming into agreement, what we do usually is that we call in the meeting. We try to come up with some common grounds where like they agree with us, and on that, and we try to facilitate the rest of the part from our side to help that stakeholder who is not in the agreement. And then we also assess that whether whatever we are going to agree with this kind of stakeholder which is not in the agreement, how will it actually affect the overall income of outcome of the project. So if it is, for example, if it is financial, or whether it is like something to be included into the project itself, which was, like, say, not initially discussed and was not agreement of the project, then it goes to the higher management and they decide whether it should be facilitated or not, or whether if we can go by any other means, for example, by facilitating a little part of that part of this stakeholder by having a subcontractor to do that part. So, for example, one of the stakeholder is, let's say, a subcontractor, but and the subcontractor is agreeing upon on, let's say, raising the data center, raised floors, and everything. He's ready to do it, but he does not agree for the firefighting.
Okay.
For we not implement part of the project. So we go through again that whether we can go for a subcontract for other part of this, or this part, this specific part of the project. If that is doable, um, then we analyze like how much it will cost, whether the subcontractor will do it and do in a lesser cost or a higher cost, and whether if we can increase the cost to the same stakeholder or the subcontractor and get it done by them, by hook or crook. So to keep less people involved in the project, to make it noiseless.
Okay, perfect, well explained. Okay, do you have any question?
No, ma'am. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Okay, so this is all from my side for today. I'll see you in the next class. Till then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, ma'am. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.